welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, welcome. Why don't you hit that subscribe button and that bell so that you can be notified every single time that I post a new video. And if you're returning, thank you for coming back. So guys, as you can probably tell, this video is a bit different. It's not really a vlog or anything like that, but that's because it is the first video of hopefully many others that I've been wanting to film, and that is because I've been working towards starting this new series called the Medbook series. And as you've probably guessed it by the name, this is going to be a series in which I share with you guys about some of the exciting medicine related books and podcasts that I'll be listening to and reading. I'll just be sharing with you guys about the things that I've learned, the things that I liked, the things that I quite did not like, or the things that surprised me about these books and these podcasts. Basically, a book and podcast review series, but because I don't want it to sound too formal, I'm not gonna call them reviews. I'm just gonna say that I'm sharing about these books and podcasts with you guys. And I was inspired to start this series after watching a video by Tash Binney, who is a medical student. She was talking about the different ways that students can gain work experience, and she mentioned books and podcasts as really good resources. And for some reason, I had never thought about that. So when she mentioned it, I kind of had a aha moment and thought, well, obviously books and podcasts are an amazing way to gain some perspective and insight on the lives of, healthcare professionals, or on the day-to-day lives of students who are doing what I would like to do in the future. And after hearing that, I decided to buy some books and to just look up a few podcasts, and a few weeks later I decided to start my YouTube channel, and so here we are now. And I thought it'd be fun to just share with you guys about the things that I'd be learning along the way. And hey, who knows, maybe this series might convince some of you that you really want a career in medicine as well, or it might just further discourage you from the idea. We'll just have to see. But welcome to the Medbook series, guys, and without further ado, let's jump right into our first book. So the book that we're going to talk about today is a very popular book among med students here in the UK, from what I've seen, and it is even now a very popular and very well rated BBC show. I'm talking about the book This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay. This book was published in 2017, and it's basically just a combination of journal entries from the author throughout his years as a junior doctor in the NHS. For those of you who may not know, the NHS is the National Health Service, which is the publicly funded healthcare system in England. And in this book, the author just shares about some of the craziest realities of his job, as well as some very funny and heartwarming and sometimes even heartbreaking experiences that he's had while working as a junior doctor. I'm just going to read the back of the book to give you a better idea of what the book is about. It says, 97-hour weeks, life and death decisions, a constant tsunami of bodily fluids, and the hospital parking meter earns more than you do. Welcome to the life of a junior doctor. Scribbled in secret after endless days, sleepless nights, and missed weekends, Adam Kay's diaries provide a no-hold-barred account of his time on the NHS frontline. Hilarious, horrifying, and heartbreaking, this is everything you wanted to know, and more than a few things you didn't, about life on and off the hospital wards. Yeah. It's intense. So we're just gonna go right into the book. I'm gonna start with 3 things that I really liked about this book. The first thing that I liked about this book was that the author took the time to define the medical terms that he used, making the book accessible to more people, not just to med students or to doctors, but making it accessible to people who might not have an extended knowledge of medicine. You can imagine how many medical terms were used in this book, and most importantly, the number of people who, just like myself, would not have a single clue of what he was talking about if he didn't take the time to do that. So that was very thoughtful of him to do. And not only did this help in understanding what was going on, but it was like a fun way to also learn some new terms and some new words. Now I can brag because I know the word hysteroscopy or laparoscopy and stuff. Makes me feel smarter, makes me feel good about myself. No, but really, I was grateful for this because there are some general terms that I think as an aspiring medical student I would be expected to know, like what a registrar is or what a senior house officer is. And before reading this book, I had no idea what those were. But thanks to Adam K, I'm a little less dumb, so that's always a good thing. The second thing that I liked about this book was the humor. Like, just imagining him in those uncomfortable and cringy situations that he talks about, and the things that the patients would present with, you're just like, how? But not only was this something that kept my attention in the book and kept me wanting to read more, but it was just nice to see a medicine related book that was comical and that was not just full of some serious and grim facts. So it was good to know that I would be reading about something that I am interested in, but still have a good time and a good laugh while reading this. So definitely the humor was a bonus. And the third thing that I liked about this book was just the way that it humanizes doctors and healthcare specialists. And the author talks about it a bit towards the end of the book, where he mentions how patients and just people in general often tend to see doctors as these almost robotic people, and sometimes just tend to forget that the people treating them are humans just like them, humans who make mistakes, humans who need to learn, humans who have feelings. And the author mentions how most times doctors are expected to carry themselves in this unnaturally formal way, to just push back their feelings and not feel them and things like that. And that's just something that puts a huge pressure and restraint on them and on the way that they live their lives. Personally, I think that it might also make it a bit hard for people who aspire to work in healthcare to really relate to these doctors and healthcare specialists, what with the absurdly high expectations that they are meant to live up to. And so I really love how this book humanized the people working in healthcare, showing that they can also be goofy, they can also have humor, they sometimes say stupid things, they can get angry, frustrated, and even sad at times. I think my favorite example of this was when he was explaining how one day he was helping with the delivery of a baby, and the baby was stuck and was running out of oxygen, and it was just a very complicated case. And in the end, when everything worked out well, the nurse who was helping him just burst in tears, out of relief. And it was just beautiful to see that you are allowed to have emotions. I just think like it was so beautiful to just read and to see that the people who are doing what I want to do in the future are people like myself, and they're not these robotic humans as sometimes we see them. And so it was just nice to have a book that just really humanizes doctors and healthcare specialists. Now, moving on to 3 interesting things that I learned while reading this book, and unfortunately they're all a bit negative, but oh well. The first thing that I learned is that one reason why being a doctor is really challenging is because you may not always get the recognition that you deserve or that you think you deserve. And although that may not really seem like such a big issue, I still think that it's pretty tough. It's true that recognition should not really be the main reason why you want to be a doctor, but I still think that it's important to recognize and to acknowledge, people's achievements, especially when you're working in a job where you're constantly under pressure, under the pressure of making the right decisions, under the pressure of being responsible for people's lives and well-being. Sometimes just a well done can make a world of difference to someone. And knowing that kind of encouragement may not always be there, or that, sometimes it's your mistakes that are pushed to the front more than the good things that you've been doing. Just knowing that doesn't quite sit well with me. The second thing that I learned was that junior doctors' salaries and work hours are insane, and not good insane, bad insane. And that's a bit funny because I always grew up hearing things like doctors always make so much money, doctors live this good life, and I was happy to hear that because I knew that that's what I wanted to do in the future. But reading this book was a rude awakening, to say the least. And not only did I learn that junior doctors in the NHS are overworked, but that they're also underpaid. I remember the author talking about how most days he would leave the hospital late because there were still patients that he had to see, and he would have to stay past his contract ending time, knowing well that he would not be paid for the extra hours that he was working. And of course, these long work hours are something that eventually affects your personal life, your relationships, sometimes your own health, and it's crazy. And it's really something that tests your intentions because it really just puts things into perspective. And I'm not gonna lie, while I was reading the book, I had to pause and ask myself, is this really the life that I want to live? Will I be willing to sacrifice so many things? Will I be willing to live this kind of lifestyle? And I think it's good that the author speaks up about such things, because then people can know the things that they are walking into when choosing a career path in healthcare. And the third thing that I learned was that mental health was a big issue within the healthcare community, more specifically for healthcare specialists. Not surprisingly, and unfortunately, because the needed support is not always offered, that really takes a toll on their mental health. And that's why we can hear of the depression rates and the suicide rates not really being great within the healthcare community. One thing that the author mentioned that I found crucial was that if you know someone who works in healthcare, it's always important to let them know that they're not alone, that you are there, that you're there to support them, that you're there for them, even if that just means sitting through a complaint session, or just listening to them as they're speaking about their frustrations, or just being a shoulder for them to cry on, because the things that they go through are really traumatic. So it's always good for them to know that they have someone that they can rely on. And sometimes just saying, I'm here, can make a world of difference. And to end, I was supposed to talk about some things that I didn't quite like about the book, but if I have to be honest, there wasn't really anything that I didn't like about the book. So I'm just going to comment on a few things that I think might be helpful to some people in deciding whether they want to read this book. And the first thing is that although the author kindly took his time to define the medical terms that he was using, if you're not someone who has like an advanced knowledge of medicine like myself, there might be some times where you might have to pause and just like look up what a word means. Sometimes the author might have defined what the word meant, but you might have forgotten. Although the wording used in the book is fairly simple, and really, I do think that most people can read it without any problem, there might still be some times where you'll have to pause and just research what a certain word means. Personally, that did not stop me from enjoying the book, and it's not something that made the process of reading the book less enjoyable for me. But I know that some people might be put off by that, so it's just something that I'm going to put out there. Be mindful of that. And the second thing is that maybe the humor might not be to everyone's taste. There were certain times where I was like, oh my goodness, am I a bad person for laughing at this? So, you know, the humor might not be for everyone. Like, for instance, if you're a person who wouldn't feel comfortable reading through a book that has many cuss words, then maybe you might feel uncomfortable reading this book because there are a few times where the author, you know, cusses and stuff like that. So that's also something to be mindful of. But if you're willing to look past that, then it shouldn't really be a problem. But other than that, I really enjoyed reading this book, and it was such an eye opener for me, which I think is always important to have, especially before throwing yourself into something. So I really liked this book, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone who might be curious about what life as a junior doctor looks like in England, or just anyone who wants to have a good laugh in a kind of twisted way. Anyways, I know that I really enjoyed reading this book, and I hope you will too if you ever decide to read it. So that's it for this video, guys. If you have any book or podcast recommendation, do not hesitate to leave them in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye. I'm talking.